what does Jesus do? He's talking to people. The people are pressing up against him. He's starting to realize, if I'm going to talk to people anymore, I'm going to be pushed into the lake of Gennesaret. By the way, if you know your Hebrew, does anybody know what Gennesaret means? It's the same thing as the Sea of Galilee. Sea of Galilee is the Sea of Gennesaret, but the Gennesaret means something. It's actually an instrument, a harp or a violin, exactly, a stringed instrument that is that shape. So if you look at the Sea of Galilee from the air, if you look at a map of it, it actually looks like a stringed instrument, like a harp or like a violin, one of the instruments they had back then that we've kind of lost touch with. But it looks like that. So he's being pushed into here. So he gets in a boat for two reasons. He gets in a boat to get away from the crush of the people, but he also knows that voices carry better over water. So he knows that he can talk to a greater group of people because his voice will carry better over the water. Just like I was talking to the kids, the ambon that was so high allowed the priest to talk to a bigger group, so water was the same. He wasn't ready to do that yet. He would have shocked people. He was being more, this is the very beginning of his ministry. So he gets in a boat and he goes, and all of a sudden he realizes he has to get in somebody's boat. Jesus doesn't own a boat. So he gets in Simon Peter's boat, he asks him. Simon Peter pushes out into the ocean, into the Sea of Galilee, not into the ocean, the Sea of Galilee. He pushes out, and when Jesus is done talking, he decides, I'm going to do a miracle. So he goes and he says, lower your nets. And Peter says, really, Lord? You're not a fisherman. You build houses. I'm the fisherman. I know this isn't the right time to do this, but because you've asked me to, I will. And he lays out, and all of a sudden they get this massive catch of fish. And Jesus says at the end, I know I'm skipping ahead, I'll go back. He says at the end, do not be afraid. If you follow me, in a sense, you'll be fishing for men. Now, what would I, as a fisherman, do if I'm out there and I just met this man that we went out the wrong time of day, threw the nets out, and caught more fish than I've ever caught in my life? Would I have followed him? I don't think I would have. I think I would have said, no, you follow me. You come be my partner. We can do this every day. If you have this wisdom I don't, I'm not going to follow you anywhere. I've just made this great discovery of you. And you're like a businessman. Like if a lawyer meets another lawyer who's good, another young lawyer, come be my partner, right? Come follow me. And is that what they do? It would be smart in one way. In an earthly way, we've just found this great discovery. A better way to catch fish is what we discovered you gave us. But is that what they do? That's what Father Michael would have done. What did Peter do? Exactly. He asked for mercy. What did he say, Mary? He followed Jesus. He says, depart from me, for I'm a sinful man. Instead of being arrogant like I would have done, instead of saying, wow, look, I can be rich now. I can be extremely wealthy with you at my side. He realizes the eternal, the transcendent consequences of what just happened. He says, depart from me, Lord, for I'm a sinful man. Now again, how have you heard me define, what is the proper way of defining, I should say, the fear of God? Because the next thing Jesus said is, be not afraid. So Peter expresses in these words, depart from me, Lord, for I'm a sinful man. He expresses a certain fear. And we need to understand what the fear of God, remember the fear of God is a virtue. So the fear of God, you can think of it as having two parts. The first part is almost very human physical fear. That's the part of saying, I am so far from you, Lord. You are so much bigger than me. You are so much better than me. There's this chasm in between my humanity and your divinity. That's one type of fear, but that's not the end. That virtue of fear is the process of understanding the difference between us, and then what? The understanding we're called to cross that chasm. We're not called to stay distant from God. We're not called to say, you're so much bigger and better than me, okay, I'll go on with my life. No, we're called to say, you're so much bigger and better than me, and thank you for calling me to be part of you. Thank you for calling me to cross that chasm, to come closer to you in this way. And so Jesus says, Peter has the first part, depart from me, Lord, for I'm a sinful man. I'm afraid you have me you in my presence. You did something amazing. You did a miracle. You did something different and other. And Jesus says, be not afraid. And then he explains why you be not afraid. And what does he say? Be not afraid because... I like that too. He says that at a different place. He says, be not afraid a lot. But he says, be not afraid, for if you follow me, he doesn't say those words, but if you follow me, after this you will be fishing for men. Fishing for fish and having a miracle happen when you're fishing for fish is one thing. That is too worldly. That is saying no one should be able to do this in this world. In other words, that's like a magic trick. A magic trick where you go, oh my gosh, you just made that penny disappear. Or you just made those cards double, or whatever the magic trick is you're doing. Right? That we can stand in awe of. But when Jesus, as soon as Jesus takes that and changes it and says, do not be afraid, after this you'll be fishing men. You will be fishing for men. In other words, what you are so good about is gathering fish from the black abyss of this Sea of Galilee. And you're going to walk into the black abyss of the world, and you're going to call men, call people to me. And that they understand. Jesus just did a transcendent miracle. He caught fish when you shouldn't be catching fish. They knew the right time of day to catch fish. He brought it. He did a miracle in catching that many fish at a time of day when you should not be catching fish. That is very odd. Again, that's get away from me, Lord. You scare me. I know fishing, and you just did something that is beyond fishing. Step away from me. I don't want you near me because I know fishing. And again, you did something more than that. But he says, aha, what I just did, I want you to do for men. Something eternal, something transcendent, something that you will have in heaven. The people you catch, the people you bring to Christ, you'll be with eternally in heaven. And you'll join that time with them. So it's important to realize then that as we go throughout our lives, as we approach God, God should be intimidating. The things of God should be intimidating. The thing God calls us to. If God was all about raising people from the dead, and that's what he did, only human things, only manifesting himself by things that we saw in this world, like I walk into my job, and since I'm Christian, I make twice as much money as the pagan does, who cares? Who cares? What God does is he takes the human things, the way that he does miracles in the human way, and he transcends them. He makes them eternal. He brings them into the eternal realm. So after that, who cares about fishing? Who cares about fishing for fish? After you realize what God just did, I can make eternal. It doesn't matter how many fish I caught today. When I get into heaven, will I care? No. When I get into heaven, will I care about how many people came to Christ today? Of course. That is eternal consequences. So again, the message that we hear, whenever we hear this, today you'll be fishing men, fishing for men, fishing, catching men, whatever way you want to interpret it. It's important to say what Jesus did here is he took something that they knew. They knew fishing. They knew it well. That was part of their hearts. And he brought that to a whole nother level through the fear of God, through the understanding of how distant God is from us and that he calls us to cross that chasm. So I'd encourage you in prayer today and throughout this week, think of the things God made you good at, think of the things that you like doing, and then say, will those have consequences in heaven? Will those have consequences eternally? Most of the time we're probably going to say no. They will not. But then you say, but so can they still be a benefit in moving me towards the things that are eternal? Yes. If fishing can be made eternal, then being a lawyer, a nurse, a CT scan tech, a cop, a pilot, a counselor, a teacher, all those things can be brought into the eternal if we have that change of mindset and say, what did Jesus do for them? He did a miracle for them, and then he called them to the next level. So once again, how do you fish for men? How do you go from what you're good at, whether it's an occupation or just doing what you're doing, and how do you bring that into the realm of the eternal? And if we can use that as a prayerful meditation, then we can start purging ourselves of all the things that are not eternal. I know this is a common homily of mine, but it's that important. Purging ourselves of all the things that are not eternal, and therefore filling ourselves with the things that are eternal. And we can start doing that by the things we are already doing, the things we're already good at, just taking the next step in that. Amen? From the Father, the Son,